Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of Sausage on a Fork, and this is a first for Sausage on a Fork, this episode, because this is the first time that I'm interviewing a crew member. I'm always getting people saying, Neil, it'd be good to hear a crew member's perspective on Grange Hill. So that's what we're doing today. So I am absolutely delighted to say that I have been joined by none other than Richard Drew, who was the art director for Series 15. Richard, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Hello, Neil. It's an absolute privilege to be here talking about a show I did 5 years ago. Yes, very good. Let's see how the memory holds up.
Brilliant. But, like I say, thanks for coming on. It's great to have you here. So what we'll do, Richard, normally when it's a cast member on, we talk about how they got into acting. So as I've just said there, you're the art director on Series 15. Could you tell us how you got into becoming an art director, how you got into that?
Yeah, I mean, trying to a potted history, I guess. I was doing amateur theatre as a kid. I grew up in Essex, sort of East London, Essex, just on that kind of border. And I joined a youth theatre when I was 12. I'd sort of had a interest in being an actor, I guess, because most kids do. You don't think there's anything beyond, what you see on the screen. And then I sort of joined the youth theatre, and then I just found myself being the person who got the props and painted the scenery, and I was that person, And I kind of hung around doing that for a bit at school. I was doing drama, CSE or O-level, whatever I was doing. My drama teacher basically said to my dad parents' evening, he's got no chance of being an actor. He's just not cut for it. But he's kind of really interested in the world, and maybe behind the scenes is where he should pursue. And I kind of did. And I think by the time I was 13, 14, I had a light bulb moment in terms of, right, I think this is what I want to do in my life. And by the time I was 16, I just knew I wanted to work behind the scenes, maybe in theatre, but probably telly. I had no idea how that was going to happen, but that's what I wanted to do. And then finished school, came down. I live in Worthing on the south coast, but I actually only been here 6 years. But I came down here as an 18-year-old to study theatre design. I'd done a sixth form college course the year before in East London at Barking College Technology, a brilliant it's now called something else now, but yeah, it was Barking College Technology. So really enjoyed that. Came down here, did theatre design, went to film school for 2 years in Wales. So I kind of done all my education by the time I was 21, and obviously honing it towards this job, this thing I'd always thought about doing since I was 16. And I just caught a kind of lucky rake. I was just in the right place at the right time, BBC Wales, because I was at Newport Film School, so that was just down the road.
Yeah.
And I kind of got an attachment at BBC Wales design department in 1988. I finished college in the summer, and 6 weeks later I started working for the BBC in Wales. So that took me up to the Christmas. Then I went to London, BBC in London. So that's now in 1989. And I did a kids show called Tricky Business.
Yeah.
A magic show. I went back to Wales and did another 5-6 months. Came back to London. So that's now 1990. I did the Les Dennis Laughter Show.
Yeah.
I did Bergerac. So I kind of did everything really. Les Dennis Laughter Show is kind of proper, old Saturday night entertainment as it used to be. Bergerac was a straight drama. Finished Bergerac in the November. Started on Going Live in 1991. So I did 3 months on that. And then Grange Hill. So that was probably April 91. I started on that. And the job ran through to November. It was a long, we're freelancers.
Yeah.
And, it's hilarious as freelancers because I'm still a freelancer. Right. And though we love that freedom and we don't like normality of regular jobs, what we do crave is a long job because there's normality to it. So actually doing something like Grange Hill was amazing. So I think it was April and it finished in November. So it was nearly a full school year, basically, on Grange Hill. And and then very quickly after that, I then did three BBC things. I did On the Up, which was a sitcom. I did Ghostwatch, which I know you'd quite like to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, and I did One Foot in the Grave. And so I did three other jobs. And then by the beginning in 1993, that was kind of it. My BBC career at that point was over. I didn't really do a contract with the BBC after that. But
Right.
yeah, that's a kind of potted history. I mean, it
Yeah.
was always in my blood. I was always quite good at art. Um, Loved films growing up, watching war movies with dad and James Bond movies and all the things, all the things, a lot of
Yeah.
kids of
Yeah.
the 70s did, I suppose. Um, but I kind of, yeah, I just had that light bulb moment of wondering how it all works,
Brilliant.
the mechanics of it, and I was always playing with Lego as a kid, and
Yeah.
my mate's sister had a doll's house, and when he wasn't looking, I'd play with the doll's house. It was definitely there's definitely something in that of really
Yeah.
things and sort of making things look lovely. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of where it came from, really.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. I'll speak to you next time. No, so so if I just go back then. So you've mentioned there about you had an interest in art as well, because I was going to ask that because I used to love watching, like whenever a big film was coming out, there always seemed to be a documentary on the making of it, and I used to love watching them and thinking that'd be great to do, but I was hopeless at art. So I was going to say, did it help the fact that you had that brain
I
that
guess
could do
so. I
that?
mean, I'm not. I wouldn't call myself an artist.
Right.
I think that, but I mean, what I can do is I think with I can think with a pen and a pencil. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I can't vocalize ideas, but give me a piece of paper and a pencil, and I can sketch it. I've
Yeah.
always had that ability. Very, very young, I had that
Right.
ability. As I said, I was playing with Lego and all those things, and if I was playing with my toy soldiers out in the garden, I was always creating worlds for them. I mean, I'm not saying I'm unique. A lot of kids do this. I know they do.
Mm.
But it's make believe, and essentially what I do now is make believe. Being a production designer, which is what I now do. I mean, I've
Yeah.
sort of grown up a bit since Grange Hill, but we get paid to make believe. You're creating fake environments.
Yeah.
I'm going to break it to anybody listening, but the school set that we did in 1999, 1991 was not a real school. It's all artifice, it's all make believe. So yeah, I've just always had that creative. There's always been something creative in me, and
Yeah.
if you trust your star signs, I'm not particularly into all that stuff, but I'm Pisces, and Pisces are meant to be very artistic. So
Right.
make of that
Brilliant.
what you will.
Brilliant. Okay, and those first few programs that you mentioned there, it's you were an art director and in the art department. So explain to me, as someone who has no clue what that job is, can you tell us what that actually entails?
Do you know what, mate? That is a very good question because I assume people do
Yeah.
understand what it is. So I can explain it also from a production designer point of view,
Mm-hmm.
which is what basically as an art director slash production designer, you are responsible for everything that you see within that frame.
Oh.
Now, obviously, a director directs, and the lighting guys light, and the camera operators operate cameras, and all that other stuff, costume makeup. So everybody has a say in it. But as an art director, and as a production designer, you're creating the world. You're
Mm-hmm.
making sure the world looks as real as you want it to be, or is as stylized as you want it to be. And within that, then that's all the props. So your department, the art department as a whole, are responsible for props, action props, and dressing props. Believe it or not, the animals, so any action animals comes under art department. Any greenery comes under art department. Graphics, which is probably not so much when I was doing Grange Hill, it's more so now. Um, Special effects kind of falls under art
Yeah.
department. There's loads of food. If actors are eating food, that all falls under art department. So it's any aspect of the visual, anything to do with the visual aspects of the show and what's contained within the frame. And as an art director, which is what I was when I was doing Grange Hill, I'm also drawing up the sets. BBC is the BBC setup is very different now to how it's done now,
Yeah.
but it was me and a designer. So when I did Grange Hill, there were two designers. There was a guy called Louise Jackson was one designer, and the other designer is Steve. I remembered it, Steve Keogh. So
Right.
Steve and Louise did basically half the series each, and I was their assistant right the way through. So
Right.
in
Okay.
the end, I was the kind of conduit that connected the both of them. Um, they would get me to do any drawings ahead of shooting, making when a set went in, making sure it's looking as good as it can be. So responsible for the drawing, and obviously that's slightly different now, though, just the way that telly is. But also, as an art director, you're also the standby art director. So on the floor when you're shooting. So all of that series I did, series 15,
Mhm.
I was there on set every single day of
Wow.
all those shoots. And when the director's lining up a shot and everybody's doing what they're doing, I'm checking to make sure you can't see any camera cables in the back of shot, somebody's left a paper cut, whatever it is. Your art directing is directing the art. You're directing the art.
Right.
You're making the frame look the best it could possibly be.
Yeah.
And that might mean in the background, oh, there's a I don't know, a coat stand growing out the back of somebody's head, just move that over 6 inches. Let's drag that chair in to sort of balance the frame up. There's loads of it. I'm simplifying it, but you're kind of almost, yeah, you're kind of painting in a kind of weird way. You're kind of creating frames, visual frames, and just
Yeah.
trying to make it look real. And then obviously as you're filming, you are problem solving as well. We were always having to deal with the fact that the doors in the school squeaked.
Right.
So that's an art department problem. Although sound have the problem, art
Yeah.
department have to solve it.
Right.
Um, and we discovered that washing up liquid is the best thing to put in a oil into a hinge of a door to stop it from squeaking. So there are copious amounts of washing up liquid going into those hinges almost every day. They're on these things called bomber hinges, so they swing both ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were, squirting gallons of the bloody stuff into the hinges to stop. So it's that kind of thing,
Yeah.
an odd reflection on a picture. You stick a paper cut behind it, change the angle so it doesn't reflect the lights. It's absolutely anything. No amount of gaffer tape can't solve a
So,
problem or a cable tie.
so
Anything and everything.
yeah. So you're saying there you're responsible for what we see.
Yeah.
Does that become more difficult when you're doing something like going live then?
Well, going live is a bit weirdly. Going live is interesting because it's a live show. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, I mean, the going live set was beautiful. It's designed by a production designer called Simon Kimmel, who's still around, still doing bits and pieces. And that set went in every week. So it wasn't a standing set. It went in on a Thursday. We rehearsed on a Friday. Obviously, went out live on a Saturday. And then each week there'd be sketches with the two boys whose name escapes me now.
Trevor and Simon.
So, and then we'd have guest interviews and we'd be doing things. So you're creating things at quite a fast turnaround. But also as a live show, once it's up and running within reason, and actually going live is a really good example because they were quite fond of things going wrong. I mean, obviously it wasn't
Yeah.
a deliberate thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
deliberately making these, but they didn't mind because it just proved that this is happening in real time. I ended up actually doing that. I just remember this. We had the Stonk. So the comic release single of '91,
Yeah.
Hale and Pace came
Hail
on.
and face. Yeah.
They came on the show and they were interviewed by Philip or Sarah. They sat on the sofa. Suddenly, the sofa gave way, and it was just a piece of MDF. It really was quite a crude thing, this thing. So, me and one of the prop boys ended up sort of sitting behind the back of the sofa,
Brilliant.
leaning against it through the whole interview to hold it. And of course, at the end of the interview, the cameras went round. And Philip says something like, it's to prove it's live. Look, there's two of our crew. So, that stuff was always going on Going Live. And
Brilliant.
that was a great show, that was a
You,
great show.
you weren't there when Five Star or Matt Bianco
No,
were
that
on.
was
And
before my
oh,
time.
right.
That was
Okay.
before my time. It was quite an interesting time for me doing Going Live because that's early '91. So it's the thing I did just before Grange Hill.
Right.
And so I had all the baggy music. So we had the Farm on.
Yeah.
James came on. We had some really cool bands. Jesus Jones came on. Yeah, EMF came on. So we had some pretty cool bands actually.
Brilliant.
The Soup Dragons came on, and the Mock Turtles came on as well. So yeah,
Wow.
I got quite lucky actually. There's some really,
Yeah.
really cool bands. And I got a lot of stuff signed as well. So
Brilliant. Brilliant. I was going to ask you if you got stuff like autographs and stuff because I know a lot of the cast when they've been on, they've said when they saw like someone famous in like the BBC canteen, like it was a cardinal sin to go and
yeah.
ask. like another actor for an
Yeah.
autograph. But obviously, when you crew, you're allowed to get away with it and
Well,
stuff like
not
that.
there is a professional etiquette,
Right.
I think, and I've worked with some, fairly big actors, and I wouldn't dream of. I would actually, if I thought I might have a chance, I would always ask a producer first, is there any chance so
Uh-huh.
and so might be able to sign it? But actually, weirdly, maybe it was just youthful, exuberance when I was in my early 20s. But yeah, I got James signed a load of stuff. Um, who else signed some stuff? The Mock Turtles signed stuff, but also there was the green room afterwards. So you end up
Yeah.
just sitting talking to all these bands. We had Dudley Moore come on, and Dudley Moore signed a thing for me.
Brilliant.
And he grew up just down the road from where I grew up. So,
Yeah.
and we had that weird thing sat in the green room. I'm talking to Dudley bloody Moore,
Yeah.
and we're talking about the A13, and we're talking about Dagenham and Rainham, which is our two, and all this sort of
Yeah.
thing. So, yeah, it was fun. It was really good fun.
Brilliant. Okay, so we will move on to Grange Hill then, Richard. And like you said, you were the art director on Series 15, which went on air in 92.
Yeah.
Had you been a fan of Grange Hill when you were younger?
Well, weirdly, I thought about this because it started in 78. Would that
Yeah.
be correct? And that's the year I started secondary school.
Right. Wow.
So it was very much on my radar, and I think it probably started early in 78, and so I was in my last year of what I call junior
Right.
school this year. So it definitely was on my radar, and it scared the crap out of me. If I'm, or
Yeah.
certainly it was a kind of, oh bloody hell, is that what it's going to be like?
Yeah.
And Grange Hill, there's actually Grange Hill on the end of the Central Line, isn't there?
Yeah.
And actually my side of where I grew up, it's that side of town. So I thought, oh, it's about a thing up near Chigwell and up near there. That's what it's about. So yeah, I remember watching those early episodes. I worked with Todd Carty on EastEnders, weirdly, and I ended up doing his last ever scene he ever did on EastEnders.
Right. Wow.
So that was in 97, 98. And then when I was doing my acting, I worked with the guy character called Doyle, who was
Oh yeah, Vince Hall. Yeah.
yeah. So he was in a panto that I did as a sort of 12-year-old, and so I kind of worked with them, and I say work. I mean, I was in a show with them. Yeah. So I wouldn't say I was a fan, but I was aware of it as a show, and I used to watch it. And
Right.
I've got a couple of those old annuals in the bookcase somewhere. But
Brilliant.
yeah, I wasn't a diehard, and
Right.
there was definitely a point where I stopped watching it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but
Brilliant.
kind of, yeah. I was aware of it as a show, and obviously working on it, I knew exactly what it was. I knew exactly what it
Yeah.
was.
Now, no, the Series 15, it's a bit of a weird one because Grange Hill was in kind of like a transitional period at that time because like what everyone considers to be like the classic era, a lot of those characters had left. People will say the last classic era. I've watched most of Grange Hill since then, and there are a lot of brilliant storylines since then.
Yeah,
There are a lot of brilliant actors and characters as well. But it's what a lot of people like the golden generation, shall we
yeah,
say,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
most of them like they left. So it is a kind of a weird transitional thing. But like you've said there that you were on set every single day
Yeah.
while this was going on, and there was quite a lot that went on in that. There was like storylines that ran throughout the whole series, storylines that ran for a few episodes, and going on and on. So we will go through some of them. So I know like when we've been emailing before this, you've mentioned there was an American teacher a couple
Yes.
of times. So that was Miss Janowitz.
Yes, that's it. There you go. See that? I didn't even remember the name. So,
And
yeah, she was
um,
lovely. I don't remember the name of the lady playing it, but she was lovely.
Marita Black, I think her name
Okay.
was, and Ray Kelly George character Ray Haynes had a mad crush
He
on
did. I remember
Miss
that.
Janowitz, and I know you also mentioned the Writers' Week, which I'm going to mention again in a minute.
Yeah.
But there was a thing during that where Ray kissed Miss Janowitz,
Ah, yeah.
and I'm just wondering on a program like Grange Hill, and knowing that's quite a like a big step in that.
Yeah.
Does the atmosphere change when you're filming
Well,
something?
I can't. I honestly can't remember that. But what I would say is they now have. There's a term for it. I won't say what's it called? Intimacy coordinators. So
Right.
that's what TV now has. So if there is anything like that on on any shoot you are doing, you get an intimacy coordinator in, and they kind of essentially direct that scene with the director. So it will become a close set,
Yeah.
and that will go on. I can't honestly remember what that would have been like on Grange Hill, but I guarantee there wouldn't have been an intimacy
Right.
coordinator. I mean, would those kids have? Would the character playing Ray? Would there have been chaperones still, or
No, I
he
think
would have been too old?
Ray was famously older than
Yeah.
the
So he
Kelly
wouldn't have
George was
even.
famously older than his character, Ray. Yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so he wouldn't have even had a chaperone because the chaperones would have been on set for
right.
sure for something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean this in the nicest possible way, but they ruled the roost with the kids in
yeah.
terms, and quite rightly because that's what they're there to do.
That's the job. Yeah,
But yeah, if he was playing younger, then he's an actor with another actor.
yeah,
That's it, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Whether it was a closed set, I can't honestly remember. It could well have been. We might have only had a reduced crew
yeah.
for that scene.
Right, okay. There was also the big reveal that there was now twins in the school. There'd always been one of the Stevens sisters, and then there was this one where there was a twin had started. They didn't know at first that there was twins in the school, so there was Claire and Julie Buckfield.
That's it. So I've got. I know this is useless to the podcast, but I've got Natalie Stevens, Julie Buckfield's whatever card it is,
Cascade, yeah.
their press card. Now, did she end up in another sitcom? Didn't she?
Yeah, the 2.4
Ah,
children.
that's it. That's
But
it.
the thing with that was when it was found out that there was twins, the end was that scene was filmed. It was like a duff duff,
All right. Okay.
the way they do it, because one of them's getting chased around the school, and then they get grabbed, and the other one's been stopped. So the two separate groups think they've got
Yes.
the one girl,
Vaguely remember that. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and then it comes in that there's the two of them, and like I say, it's done like a duff duff moment.
Yeah.
This was a really throwaway one, but there was always someone trying to make money in Grange Hill, and there
Yeah.
was some of the younger lads were washing cars or wanting to, you know.
Well, funny enough, because I've got down it as episode 3, because I'm just looking at IMDb. So we shot that around. I do remember shooting that, and I have a feeling we shot that at a weekend. We didn't do many weekend
Right.
filming because obviously the kids' hours,
Yeah.
were very strict. For some reason, I think we shot that over a weekend, and it was in the car park behind the shops in Borehamwood High Street,
Yeah.
by it might have been like an Iceland.
Yeah. I think it was Sean Carnegie who played one of the lads
Yeah,
in that scene. He's been on, and I'm pretty sure he said the same thing
yeah,
as you
and
there.
I think so. Just going back to what an art director does, obviously they're washing cars, so I'm having to clean the cars off with another person
Right.
to reset. So you're resetting, making those cars look clean, and I seem to remember it. Well, it's episode 3, so we would have shot it. We shot the series in sequence.
Right.
So in reality, we're probably shooting that in April, maybe May, beginning of June. It was still quite cold,
Right.
and I can remember just being blooming freezing doing that.
And
And the kids are getting soaked more and more. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I do remember filming that. I do remember filming that particular scene.
And you would have had to make the dirty, like, because they put mud on the
Oh
cars
no, no, that's it.
first.
That's God. Yes, that's exactly what they did. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I would have done that. I would have definitely made, and that would have been probably made with Fuller's Earth, which is a thing you can't use now,
Right.
because it's because it's carcinogenic. But we
Right.
used it liberally. Yeah, so Fuller's Earth would have been mixed with water to create the mud. Yeah,
Yeah. Brilliant. Like I say, they had to make the mud. They covered the cars with mud. Then they were cleaning it off, and then there was a scene that they ended up with. Got found out what they'd been
yeah.
doing, and they got the water poured over their heads, and like you
That's
say,
it.
they were getting
That's it. I do. I do
getting
remember.
soaked.
That's
Like,
so funny. So funny. Yeah, I'm just looking at pictures of it because on IMDb there's yeah, it's all stuff around Borehamwood. It's really
yeah,
funny.
brilliant. And obviously, Kevin O'Shea was there then, who played Mr. Hargreaves, and
Yes.
I just loved Mr. Hargreaves as a character because he was so different to. They'd had Bronson in the past, who was like Michael
Yes.
Shears,
Yes.
who'd
Yeah.
been
Yeah. Yeah.
really like strict,
Well, I remember him,
stiff
and
upper
he
lip.
because he was there from the start, wasn't he, Mr.
No,
Bronson?
no, Mr. Bronson came in round about 85, 86.
Okay.
But then, yeah, so they replaced with Mr. Hargreaves, who was a very different, a bit like Britas. I always
Yes,
likened
he
him
was.
to.
He played. He had. I seem to remember he had a kind of he kind of almost played it. He kind of played it for laughs, but didn't play it for laughs.
Yeah, yeah,
He had a very nice delivery, and there was almost like a. It was almost like there was a sideways glance.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he
yeah,
was
yeah,
letting the audience in on it a little bit.
yeah,
I do remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
that was directed by Richard Kelly. I've just seen that was directed by Richard Kelly. Richard was a lovely director. I'm hoping he's still about, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, Richard was a great director.
Brilliant. And one of the biggest storylines at that time was when Chrissy Mannering was pregnant. And,
Yes.
and like, because obviously that was a big thing for Grange Hill to
Oh yeah,
take
that's a big
on.
deal. And then she brought the kid in. She brought the baby into the school, didn't she?
Yeah, and there
Yeah,
was
yeah. I do remember
so
that.
like things like this is going to sound like a stupid question, but like filming a scene where someone's in labor in the toilets and stuff like that, and you've never actually experienced that yourself. Is that
Yeah.
is that difficult? Is there someone else there giving you say, you know what, that wouldn't happen? This would that? Is there
I
people?
suspect that would. Now again, I can't. If I'm honest, I can't remember it. But I would imagine there was somebody there to deal
Right.
with that. Whether that was a chaperone or whether. Well, again, was she? Oh, she would have been old enough not
I think
to
she
be
might have
chaperone.
just been
I can't
just been
believe that. I can't believe they wouldn't have had somebody there. I don't remember it. I have a feeling that sort of thing. I might not have even been on the floor, although I
right.
was there, as I said, every
Yeah,
day. Chances are I might not have been around. They would have cleared the floor for that.
yeah,
But I would imagine there would have been somebody for that.
yeah,
Absolutely. That feels too weird not to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was the Peace Garden, which was
Yes, they were saving a garden, weren't they?
yeah, they were.
Which is where so that's at the front of Neptune House where Holby, as you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
with the Holby building, and obviously in the 60s it was the UFO headquarters.
yeah.
But that Peace Garden's also where Arthur on EastEnders had his allotment.
Is it?
It was in the same patch. Yeah, so we put up a run of fences. I think on that photo I sent you, that's there was a run of fences that we
Yeah.
erected. And then obviously they were making posters in the not an art room. It was like they turned it into their newspaper room, didn't they?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was the American teacher. She sat. They were creating a school newspaper. Would that
Yeah,
be?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, God, there you go. That's something. And they were. I remember a scene where they're painting all the sort of placardy posters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I do remember that, and yeah, and we were out there for nearly a week doing that. But yeah, it was all in and around where, as I said, where Arthur had his allotment.
I never knew that.
Yeah,
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 brilliant. And the thing with the Peace Garden was there were quite a few bits happened in there, and like you said there was the protest to stop getting rid of it, but there was
yeah.
also things where the girls had found a footprint, and they
Yes.
and that it was a fox.
Did they
Um,
take a cast of it?
yeah, they did.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. Yeah, God, I remember that. Yeah.
and you said earlier on about if there was any work with animals and things like that, but there's a scene and I've talked about it loads on here. There's a scene where the girls go into the garden to try and see the foxes, and they see them. But
Yeah.
when it cuts away to the foxes, it's clearly
Library footage.
stock footage from
Yeah,
Wildlife on One or something like that.
yeah. I don't remember having a fox in on the set, that's for sure. So it would have been library footage.
But it's
Animals are notoriously expensive, and
yeah,
that's because they come with handlers and they come. I did the series called Staff Let's Flats,
yeah, yeah,
the series, and I did the first series, and there's the scene with the pigeon in the flat and it's knocking over all the stuff. Those pigeons were blooming expensive.
right.
Really, really expensive. We had about 3 or 4 of them. But yeah, they are. They're notorious
Yeah,
at Grange Hill. I wouldn't have been in control of the budget, weirdly. So
right.
obviously, as a production designer, I'm in control of the budget. But as an art director, I wouldn't necessarily have been aware of what the budget was on Grange Hill. I have no idea. But chances are they wouldn't have been able to afford it as an animal.
Right. Well, I know Robert Craig Morgan, who played Justin Bennett in the very early first few series,
Yeah.
said that they had a scene with a cat, and it was an acting cat,
Yeah.
and it ran off.
Yeah. Well, it's an animal.
And I don't think they got it back. That
Yeah,
was the
that's
thing.
funny.
Like, not just ran off; it ran off and didn't come back. But yeah, so yeah, because when I watched, I thought they're not really there.
No,
And
that
then
was I sort of now you're saying that I can sort of picture it, but as I said, I picture the girls making the cast. That's
yeah,
funny. That's I don't know
um,
where that came from.
now, there was also a big thing about gang fights and fighting, but
Yeah,
there was the Eagles and Hawks, but there was also the two schools were
yeah, the posh
feuding,
school.
St. Joseph's
Yeah,
and Grange Hill, and
yeah,
things had gone on, things in the garden and stuff like that. Other things had gone on,
yeah.
but then that led to the massive fight
Yes.
on on the wasteland. Now,
The wasteland is, oh, I got, oh, this is amazing. So the wasteland is where Westfield in White City is.
right,
That's it. That's it. It was one solitary building, and we definitely shot that on a Sunday.
right,
Oh, blooming hell, that's such a good memory. And it was really warm and it was really dusty. It was dangerous. I mean, now I don't think you'd be allowed to film
no,
a site like that. But yeah, we shot that. I think it was either 1 or 2 days filming. It was a long day. And I remember having an idea to throw a load of newspaper and paper down. So there's a big wide shot where the kids are coming up and down the staircases
uh-huh.
and there's loads of falling paper. And that was something I wanted to do. I don't know why. I just thought it was quite good. But yeah, interestingly, so that's where anybody who knows West London, anybody who knows where Westfield is, the big
Right,
shopping centre, that's where that was filmed.
right. Well, yeah,
More interestingly than that, you have you ever seen Roger Rabbit? You must,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So Roger Rabbit, the climax to Roger Rabbit, there's a pair of lovely warehouse, Victorian looking warehouse buildings in
right.
Roger Rabbit, which is where the where Cartoon World is. It's where they break through the
Yeah,
wall.
yeah, yeah. Toontown,
Those
yeah.
two buildings are next door to that building where we shot,
No
and
way.
they're still there. As part of the Westfield complex. Anybody listening to this, go and have a look. It's where the buses. It's where the buses are kept outside Westfield. Those two buildings are in the climax to Roger Rabbit. That's where we
Wow.
shot it, and it's literally next door to where we shot that scene.
Brilliant. I
If
mean,
we was, yeah, and if we were shooting that in '91, they shot Roger Rabbit in '88, so it was only a
yeah,
couple of years before. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's where it is.
Oh, wow. Roger Rabbit is like top 10 for me. Easily.
Oh wow, okay.
Easily top 10. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Amazing.
I love that. I mean, like, so that that must have been though really difficult to film. Like when you've got hundreds, thousands of kids. Because I've spoken to kids, like actors who were in that scene,
Yeah.
and some of them said they were terrified by not just the number of people, but some of those people as well. Because
Yeah.
they said they just bust in all sorts
Yeah.
of, and some of
Yeah.
them they said
It was a big number
genuinely
for
rock hard.
Grange. Yeah. Yeah. It was a number. I remember it being quite a big deal. And I think there was a top shot. You know, it's
Yeah.
a proper number that. I'd love to rewatch that actually. Yeah, I've forgotten all about that. I remember the rivalry because I sent you one of the photos I sent was the graffiti of the Eagles
Yeah, yeah.
on the fence, which I did.
Right, okay.
So there was and then we did a scene at an American school. We did the scene at what looked like a public school, didn't we?
Oh yeah, that's right at the end of the
Yeah.
series. That was where that was.
Yeah, so that was we filmed that at a place called the American College, which is up in Bushy. It doesn't, I think it's just now posh flats, but
So was
what
that for when they were playing baseball? Is that what
we
that
played
was for?
baseball, and we had a oh this is funny. I remember now. Any of the actors might remember this, but we got the BBC managed to get a crane to do a top shot. There's a high top shot of the scene from
Right.
above. And I think it's like I think they either got a fire truck in or a proper lifting crane to get the shot. Now, this would not happen now. There's no way this would happen now. But at lunchtime, two of the actors went up in this thing because they just wanted to go up. The
Yeah.
thing broke down. The thing broke down. So they were stuck up there for like 45 minutes and everybody's going bonkers because we couldn't, they were in the scene and we couldn't film it. I think I know who it was, but I'm not going to say because I don't want to incriminate it. Anyway,
Uh,
anybody in that scene on that day will remember that. Will remember.
you'll have to tell me when this finishes.
Yeah,
Um,
I think one of the two people in there we've already talked about.
all right, okay.
So we shot that at the American College, and the American College at that time was one of the go-to locations. It was a location that got used a lot. Anybody remember a series called Judge John Deed? And that was all shot there. Band of Brothers got shot there.
Right.
It's in Nuns on the Run. It crops up in loads of shows from the sort of late 80s, early 90s until I
Brilliant.
think in the early 2000s they shut it down and it's become flats. The building's
Right.
still there. I think
Yeah.
it might even be in the first Indiana Jones. I think it doubles as his. I
Wow.
think it might be that building that doubles for his university.
Brilliant.
So
Brilliant.
it's been in loads of stuff that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing with it, just going back to that big fight scene. My only thing with that, and this is not on reflection on the art direction, it's the storyline itself. It gets broken up by Chrissy and their baby and Justine. They came in and it was a big thing of, look, have a good look as this baby's grown. I don't want
Yeah.
this baby to go.
Yeah.
And then there's the thing where that's filmed overhead where they
Yeah.
all
Well,
scarper.
that's taken from the top of the
Yeah,
building.
when
Yeah.
the police come, everyone scarpers and we just see
Yeah.
those three left, and it just like a fade.
Yeah.
Fade to purple, probably not fade to black. I think because it went.
Which is the
It,
Grange Hill color, right?
yeah, it went to the credits then. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Wow,
I
that's so funny. You should say that. I totally forgotten that being done. But I do remember us shooting it bizarrely over a weekend because it would
yeah,
have been quieter because that's on White City. That's very close to the television centre. It's
uh-huh.
literally across the road from as it was television centre.
Yeah,
Yeah, wow.
brilliant. And
Wow, that's a memory. That's a really good memory.
we've mentioned the Eagles and the Hawks,
Yeah. Best life
and
story, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was, yeah,
yeah.
and the fact that Justine was going out with this lad Liam, he was at the other school, but he was also a certified gang member
He
as well
was.
outside of school,
And he ended
and
up in Soldier Soldier, didn't he? I
he
think.
was in Soldier.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he was
that's
in
it.
quite
Yeah.
a few. Yeah, he was in Alan Partridge as well. I'm Alan Partridge. He ended up in that. The one where they're building his house when he lives in the caravan.
Oh, of course.
He's
Yes.
one of the builders there.
Yeah.
But Liam was killed on his way to a fight. That was a night shoot. That would have been.
Yeah. Is
Um,
that on the bike?
yeah, when he was on his bike. Yeah, he
He
was hit
gets
by a
knocked over,
car.
doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It was a night shoot. And actually, that's one of the photos I've got then. Yes, of course. Um, I can't remember where we shot it. Again, it would have been probably close to Boreham Wood, but it was a night shoot. Um, and for an art director, for me, I remember Steve saying to me, just remember when a car has an accident, there's always mud on the underside of the wheel hub. So
right.
when you get to shoot the scene, sprinkle a bit of. It's one of those things.
Yeah,
And whenever I've done an accident, I always put a little sprinkle of mud, and it's something Steve always told me
brilliant.
because when a car's had a shunt, there's dirt there,
yeah,
So I do remember doing that, and I think we wetted it down. It was a damp evening or something, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I do remember. I remember shooting that, but
brilliant.
I
And
hadn't realised that's the reason why because he died. Wow.
yeah, I mean, so you go back to the wheel, that's some detail for like a 3 second shot,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like that's like that's brilliant. That and that's stuff that like I wouldn't think about.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and like people watching it might not
Well,
think about either.
that's kind of my job, and actually, in a funny kind of way, if people are noticing the art department, then you're
Yeah,
not doing your job. You don't really want people to notice.
yeah,
You just because it's all about performance. I mean, obviously, the great auteurs like Ridley Scott with the the visuals are everything. But
uh-huh.
for with a lot of drama, you don't want people to notice.
Yeah,
You want whether you're changing the color of a wall to sort of to help a character or to create a mood. Absolutely, that's all
yeah,
part and parcel. But ultimately, you do not want anything to get in the way of the performance.
yeah,
All
brilliant.
about the performance.
Yeah, we've mentioned Writers Week, and as a bit I always talk about with Writers Week is when a poet called Levi Tafari
Yes,
came on. Now I've seen Levi Tafari in person, like,
yes, yes. Gosh, I
and
forgot that.
he's unreal, like when you're
Yeah.
there. But is it more difficult when someone comes in and then they're not an actor? No, all right, he's doing his performance poetry, so he's acting to a degree. But if it's someone that's not necessarily a TV or film
Yeah.
actor, and they're asking being, are they asked to follow directions, or is it a case
Well,
of do you
I
do
think,
your thing and we'll get on with it?
yeah, I would imagine. I remember him being. Now you said it, I remember the name. So I can remember that. But in just from experience,
Yeah,
actors who aren't people performing aren't actors. They kind of, it's the retake. They kind of give their energy over too soon. I think
right.
a good actor.
Yeah,
I think a good actor will, always has something in the tank for take after take after take. Now, Grange Hill was shot at a great speed. I mean, we probably maybe 6 takes would be the most we'd ever
Right.
probably do. I can't imagine because you've got to move on. You've got to complete, 5 to 10
Hmm.
minutes of shooting. Have 5 minutes of whatever screen time a day. So just in my experience, generally with non-actors, it's just them going all out on take one and then going again and again and again, and it's just you see the energy level drop.
Yeah.
So I think it's that. So yeah, just I'm trying to think of an example where I've done that, where I've worked with a non-actor actor. But yeah, it's basically the rhythm of television, the
Right.
rhythm of an actor, I think. But I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, a poet would have his own way of doing things, but
Yeah.
and it's energy levels. It's energy levels.
No, there was a thing where there was a fashion show, which I know would have come into your remit because there's a bit where it starts off in the dark and they've
Yeah,
got like neon things have been drawn onto their clothes, like neon colors
Well,
and
that's costume as
patterns.
well. But that whole room. So interestingly, we there wasn't that many set builds, but that
Right.
room is actually two of the classrooms turned into the hall.
Ah,
So
right. Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about the way the set was on Grange Hill, but
No,
it's
no.
actually so we're in studio. I want to say Studio B at L Street, and it was a set stand. It's set standing. The school set that I worked with was designed by a chap called Chris Webster. In fact, Chris was my designer on Les Dennis Love Show.
Ah, right.
Chris went on to do The Weakest Link and loads of other things. Chris
Hmm.
is a seasoned, production designer, and it's actually a cruciform. So it's one corridor running that way and one corridor running that way, and they kind of meet on a cruciform. And at one end, you've got the supposed entrance to the school, which is a slightly old Victorian bit, and you turn there's a little double set of double doors, and so in each corner of the cruciform, you have a classroom.
Right.
So but you've got a large classroom space that you can also split down the middle and create two classrooms, two
Hmm.
smaller classrooms, or the headmistress, sorry, classroom. So they're all kind of interchangeable. It used to annoy the hell out of me that there was no logic to where the classes were, and the
Right.
kids were always coming out of one door and into another door. In the next episode, they go out of one door and it'd be a completely different classroom. And it used to really get on my nerves. So I actually said to Albert, who's the producer, Albert Barber, I
Yeah.
said, can I draw what I think the plan is? So I've tried to find it to show you. And I did take the cruciform idea and then kind of imagine what the whole school would look like because of where all the classrooms are and where they've
Yeah.
been established. Um, but for that particular book week scene, two of the classrooms were taken away. So you basically you had not quite half of the studio, but we kind of stripped everything out, and
Yeah.
it was a big enough space then to build the school hall.
Yeah.
So we built the school hall within the studio. The other side of one wall is the corridor, and you walk through, and then you're into that space. So you could have kids walk into it, and then we put a stage at one end and a curtain. And I think we built one false wall down the other side. So yeah, it was actually within the space of the original set design.
Yeah.
But yeah, the original set design is essentially a cross of corridors and
Right.
four rooms off of it.
Yeah. Right. And
And always the blind shut. If you were setting a set or there was some other set, you'd notice in the corridor all the blinds are shut because
right.
what's going on is not a classroom.
Right.
There's something else, or that's where there's set being stored. And I think Chris's parents' house was in one corner at one
Right.
point as well.
Yeah.
And it all got interchanged. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And like, so just go. You just mentioned Chrissy there, because I wanted to ask you about this. So the bits where like when she had the baby, and that's obviously like in her house was in the studio,
Yes.
but like the hospital and stuff. Did you actually go out to a hospital?
I wonder whether we did or we. What did we do with the hospital? I honestly can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember building anything.
Having said that, it's at Elstree, and Holby would have been
It wasn't.
on
It
there.
hadn't started. It hadn't started.
Ah, right,
We did a coach leaving in one episode,
right,
and that was outside. That was meant to be Victoria Coach Station, and we shot that out the back of the doors of the studio
right.
in the
Really?
undercover. So I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I
when Ted went to Southampton. The father of the baby went to Southampton. That's what that
That's it.
was.
That's it. Yeah, because his little flat was shot near Elstree. I remember doing that near a little in a little bedsit near Elstree Airfield.
Really? All
That's
right.
where Ted's flat. Because isn't Level 42 playing? It's there's a Level
I
42 record
think it
playing
might
where
be
they
there.
have a
Yeah.
it's over. That's it. It's
Yeah.
over. It's playing. Wow.
Because
God, how do I remember that?
there's a few bits where in that story, like he goes to like his mate's flat in Southampton, he goes to the
Yeah,
party and all that. But there's another bit where he goes for a job interview,
yeah,
and when I've watched it, it looks like I don't know. It looks like it's in like an airport or a bus. I don't know. It
yeah.
didn't look like.
Well, it couldn't be an air. We wouldn't have gone to an airport.
It looked like it would have been like you just said there. It would have been somewhere not in Southampton,
I mean,
obviously.
hospitals. I've honestly, I've shot. In fact, last week we shot a little hospital scene on this. I'm working on a series called The Chelsea Detective at the moment,
All
and
right.
we had a little scene in a hospital room, and it was basically an empty office next door to where I'm sat, and it's just like a million offices you've been in before.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
amazing what a hospital bed does in a space and a bit of curtain
Yeah.
and a bleeping machine. You can get away with murder, So,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
yeah,
I love that. Okay, and obviously, like at that time on Grange Hill, some of the adult actors who were on there, like I always say, it was a mark of how good Grange Hill was by the
yeah.
caliber
Caliber of
of
the
the
actors.
adult
Well,
actors.
Anna Quayle
Yeah,
is the one for me. And if I had my time again on that show, I would have actually spoken to her more than I did.
right,
So I don't think I was aware of how big a star she was
right, yeah. Do
fully.
you know what? Everyone said that, you know.
Yeah. I mean, she's in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah,
Her brother's Anthony Quayle. But, she crops up in Casino Royale, the original Casino Royale.
yeah,
Um, and I really wish I'd had the wherewithal. I mean, I was young,
yeah,
really. I mean, I'm only in my mid-20s when I'm working on Grange Hill. I'd only been doing the job 3, maybe not quite 4 years. It's hilarious. I'm basically my son's age. My son is 25 in December, so I'm
yeah.
basically the age of my son, and I see him as a bloody baby still.
Yeah.
So, and I was working on this show. I was sort of, and I really wish I'd chatted. I've definitely done that in later life now. If
Yeah.
there's an older actor, I will sidle up to them and I don't necessarily want to self. I don't want any of that. I just want to say, oh, I really loved you in that thing you did in the
Do
70s.
you ever get starstruck with like the people that you work with?
Oddly, with musicians, I do more than
Right.
actors. Because I love my music. So when I've done entertainment, I don't do so much entertainment anymore. But I used to get more starstruck, and I've been very close to some very big,
Right.
not building my part up here, but I just have. I've just been near very, very famous people. I've stood 8 feet from David Bowie and all the rest of it. So
Yeah.
you get slightly overwhelmed. There's a professional bit of you that has to kick in.
Hmm.
But yeah, you are looking at somebody who basically you've got all their records on, at home. But yeah, not so much with actors, but I suppose I'm in my late 50s and I'm aware of the caliber of actor. I'm probably just more aware. I'm more aware of
Right. I
who
get
I'm
you.
working with. I did something last year. I worked on a couple of series of Mandy, the
Oh,
BBC
yeah.
Bible
Yeah.
one. And his name has completely slipped my mind, but it was Brian who was in Georgia Mildred.
Brian Murphy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he was in it. I think no, was he in it? Yeah, was it him? No, but he was in Man Down. I worked with him on Man Down.
All
No,
right.
it was Roger Sloman who was in Mandy.
Ah, Roger Sloan. Yeah.
And Roger Sloman's in Nuts in May.
And he was in the first series of Grange Hill.
Oh, there you go. But I worked with him on Bergerac. So when we were shooting Mandy, I just said, "Look, Roger, you won't remember me. I was just a 22, 23-year-old idiot on a film crew. But we worked together on Bergerac and we had a lovely little chat about the BBC as it was back then. And, I would be more inclined now. And if I'd known more about Anna, if I thought about it now, I
Yeah.
really should have had a proper chat with Anna Quayle. I
And
really should have done because
so
she was lovely as well. She was absolutely lovely.
yeah. Were there any cast members that you spoke to a lot?
I can't really remember. I think the only character guy there were. I'm going to go. I don't know their names. So there was a chap called Richard in the story.
Yeah. Desmond Askew.
I remember talking to him and his friend in the story, the girl. I remember talking to them quite a bit. She went on and did some other stuff.
Yeah. Louisa Bradshaw White.
That's it.
Yeah.
So those two, I had a bit of a, there was a bit of a relationship with
Yeah.
relationship. Those two I chatted to.
Yeah.
I don't suppose for one second they would remember me, but
But
I do remember talking to those, but not really anybody else. Not
no.
really anybody else. I mean, everybody knew who you were.
Yeah.
Most of the time I seem to remember the kids being all right. I mean, obviously they're kids and they'll get up to mischief because they're kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm a grown up even in my mid 20s. I'm a grown up, but no, I don't remember. But yeah, I definitely remember spoke to the two you just said.
Yeah.
I remember them being lovely, actually, really, really nice.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So that series finished. Why was that the only series that you worked on then?
Because I did. I mean, the BBC, I get a credit on the last show actually, which is something the BBC never did for assistants. It was the
Right.
BBC way of doing things was very, very different. It's a lot more user friendly now with any shows. I mean,
Yeah.
any working on a show gets a credit, but they never did. But Albert got me a credit on the last one, which I was very, very grateful of right at the end. Well, I just went on to the next job. I mean, you were on rolling contracts. I was a freelancer. Um, what the BBC tried not to do is get you on more than 12 months, because if you're on more than 12 months, you're entitled to pension plans and all. It just the goalposts changed, so they always
Right.
stopped you short of a year's contract.
Uh-huh.
And I finished Grange Hill. Grange Hill wouldn't have started again until the next April, probably.
Right. I get you.
And I got asked to do On the Up, which was probably February, March. So I kind of what the way it used to work, you had your staff assistants, your staff designers, and then you had your freelance pool of people,
Right.
of which I was one of them. So you would get called up when all the other bits had been taken, or a designer particularly asked for you. So that's kind of how it works. So I can't remember what I did after. I probably didn't do much, and then I waited for the phone to ring, and it was sort of February, March. I think I nearly ended up doing a thing called The Entertainer. I think I might have done, but yeah, I ended up doing On the Up with a production designer called Anthony Ainsworth, who
Uh-huh.
I bumped into last year for the first time in ages. So
Right.
that's kind of what I went on. That was with Dennis Water. That's the thing with Dennis Waterman and
Yeah. Yeah.
Joan
Yeah.
Sims. Now, interestingly, so 6 months later, I'm sat in a hotel room having a half-hour chat with Joan Sims.
Wow.
And that was
Brilliant.
amazing. And I will never forget. I can remember where she was sat, where I was sat, and what we talked about. Her dad was a station master out in Essex, so I kind of knew the station, and we were just gassing away about all kinds of stuff. So
Brilliant.
yeah, maybe I very quickly learnt my lesson from that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So you did
Yeah,
on
and
the up.
I had a lovely chat with Joni. Joni, as everybody
Brilliant.
calls me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that year, you already mentioned it, and we need to talk about it.
It's
So
nearly Halloween.
you you were the yes,
Art
assistant
director.
designer
No,
on
art director, assistant designer on Ghostwatch. Yeah.
Ghostwatch. So can you explain what Ghostwatch, what the premise of Ghostwatch was for anyone that doesn't know? I know there will be people out there that do, but if anyone doesn't know, can you just tell us what Ghostwatch was?
Ghostwatch was a supposed live broadcast from a house in a non-disclosed space in suburbia. We shot
Right.
it in Northolt, in West London, actually not a million miles from where I'm working at the moment.
Uh-huh.
And it was meant to be a live broadcast the BBC were doing, because this house had supposedly had hauntings or apparitions or supernatural things going on. So the BBC had a studio set, weirdly shot at L Street in Studio D, literally across the road from where we shot Grange Hill, across the studio from where we shot Grange Hill. And there was a studio set, and it had Michael Parkinson as a live introducing the show. He had paranormal experts come on, and every once in a while they would throw to the house. They would throw to this house where the house had been rigged with BBC cameras and sound recording equipment and detectors. And Sarah Green was in the house as the roving reporter, reporting of anything unnatural going on through the course of the evening. And it's a drama. I'm going to break it to you now. It's a drama, but basically through the course of the evening, things happen. It gets very, very heavy. Sarah in the drama is never seen of again. She ends up, I won't say the word because it's comedic, but she ends up disappearing in this under the stairs. Um, and the BBC had then, through the course of that broadcast, received a record number of complaints. It ended up on Right to Reply the next day. It got very, very heavy. It got very serious. Somebody took their life in because of
Oh,
'cause they think as a result of watching the show. Um, and yeah, it got very, 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 very heavy. Um, but it was a drama, and basically people were fooled.
yeah,
People thought it was real. And I think it still holds the record for the most. It's not so much it's the most complaints, it's the most calls to the duty log. So they received the highest number of calls over to the duty log
yeah,
when it was going out, and also at a particular moment in the story. Um, but because it's a horror, it's now, and it's never been repeated. The BBC
no,
have never repeated it. It's obviously got this cult status. It was made in the summer of 1992. It went out on Halloween night 1992. The one and only time. It's had a BFI release. It had its 30th anniversary, well, or 3 years ago now. And it has a real cult
yeah,
following. There's definitely connections with like the Blair Witch Project. Were definitely inspired by it.
mhm,
It has a it has an afterlife
yeah.
of its own in terms of its influence. Yeah, and I was the art director.
Were you surprised by that impact, that legacy?
At the time, no, I've got
Right.
asked this quite recently with the greatest respect, there are other podcasts out there, and I got asked about it on another podcast. No, not at all, and it
Right.
was kind of at the time. Do you know what? Actually, as a job, as an art director, it was one of the most enjoyable jobs I ever did.
Uh-huh.
It really was a good fun job to do, and because everything was shot as live, the script, the way the script and the scheduling happened was we shot scenes continuously. They just let the cameras roam, so we were finishing at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, which is
Right.
unheard of when you're shooting a drama because you normally go to the wire. Actually, that was another good thing about Grange Hill because you're working with kids. The
Yeah.
shooting bit shorter.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big plus of working on Grange Hill. Um, so yeah, it at the time no, and in fact when it aired, I remember bumping into Ken, who was my production designer, a lovely designer called Ken Starkey, who's sadly no longer with us. He and I just were almost like shrugged it off, like, oh well, that kicked off a bit.
Yeah.
Never really thought anything more of it, but it's kind of had a life of its own since. I mean, the Inside Number Nine thing they did a couple of years ago, the live episode in the studio. I mean, clearly
Yeah.
a direct.
I think for me, I mean, one of the things, because Michael Parkinson was presenting it,
You believe it?
you assume it's a genuine,
It's legit.
serious thing. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
not
I
a,
think the
it's not a,
smart casting was Sarah Green because she was on Going Live, and I
mhm.
so actually weirdly I knew Sarah from a year before doing Going Live.
Yeah,
Um, and that was very smart casting because you totally buy it. And
yeah,
that's why she had to go on Going Live on the following week and actually say, look, I'm okay.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
fine. It got really, really serious.
yeah. Because
Um, but it has this mystique because it's never been repeated, and you can get it on a DVD. I've done a Q&A screening down here in Worthing where I've talked about working on it. I might be doing a couple more in October. But it does have this life of its own.
there's a particular video sharing platform on the
Yeah.
internet where you can probably watch it as well.
You
I
can see
imagine.
clips of it. There's a lovely chap called Richard. His name's escaped me, but he runs a website called Behind the Curtains.
Right.
But he's kind of dedicated. He's a bit like yourself. He's a huge fan of the thing, and he's the driving force that's kept it in the public
Yeah.
consciousness. And he's bought a couple of books out about it, and I think he was partly responsible for one of the BFI releases.
All right. Cool.
He's the guy who's kind of driven it forward. So yeah.
Yeah. And like when I was going through your CV of everything that you've done, obviously you've mentioned IMDb, and I always say, and people listening to the podcast know I always say it's not the most reliable source of information. But I spoke to you and you said, yeah, this is you, and it's pretty spot on. What I noticed was you sort of moved towards comedy programs more than anything. Was that your decision, or is that just people saying, "Can you come and do this for me?" Like,
It's pretty much people saying. I
right.
think yeah, I think well what happened was is that I art directed for 10 years, and then I ended up doing the 11 o'clock show, which is a show you might remember. It
Mm-hmm.
was Ian Lee, Daisy Donovan,
Ricky
and
Gervais.
and Ricky was in it,
Yeah.
and Jimmy Carr was in it.
Tommy Vance. Tommy Vance was the other
Tommy
main one.
Vance was in
Yeah.
it. and also Mackenzie Crook, you know.
Mackenzie
So
Crook, Sacha
yeah,
Baron Cohen.
Sacha Baron Cohen. So I was the production designer of that, and that was the point where I stopped art directing and assisting. I'd sort of dipped my toes in. I'd done some bits and pieces before then, but basically that was the point I went, right, I'm no longer uh, art directing, I'm going to be a designer. And a lot of the people on that show ended up doing comedy shows. So you kind of just, people just know who you are. And so for a
Yeah.
while, I did a lot of comedy, did a lot of stand-up comedy. God, I even did videos. I mean, that's how old I am. I did comedy videos back in the day. And worked with Ricky a couple of times. Obviously, as you know, I did Afterlife with Ricky, but
Hmm.
he was on the 11 o'clock show, and I did a chat show with Ricky that was a one series thing. So I kind of done a lot of comedy. So it's just how the career's evolved really. But I got known for comedy for a while. I was known as the guy who did all the game shows. So I kind of did all the games,
Right.
not necessarily the sets, but the kind of the creating of the games. And that came about because I art directed on the Crystal Maze
Yeah.
and got a reputation of being somebody who can create games or help design games. So I did a few bits and pieces. I did a lot of games design on a one-off series called Ice Warriors, who you may not remember.
Do you know what? I've got that highlighted Ice Warriors, like
Yeah,
because
it's funny.
Gladiators on Ice, basically,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Gladiators on Ice. I only did one series. It was deadly. It was a deadly series. But yeah, I designed a lot of the games on Ice Warriors. So, or the concepts for the games.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did loads of stuff really. And then the comedy thing. I then started to do narrative comedy. So obviously things like Man Down, I did Big School, another series set in a school.
Hmm.
Williams thing. I did quite a bit with David Williams. Did three of his books, TV films, and then I did Partridge. I did the This Time with Alan Partridge, and loads of stuff.
Hold on. Can I just interrupt you there? I'm sorry for interrupting, but this time with Alan Partridge, am
Yeah.
I right? You were nominated for an award.
Yeah, I got
Ah,
an RTS nomination. Yeah, I didn't win,
right.
sadly, but yeah, I did get. Oh, that's very sweet of you. Yeah, I did. I loved doing that job. That was a real highlight for me
Yeah.
because he's iconic. That character, and actually, one of the designers I art directed for, a designer called Dennis de Groot, who's still around. Dennis designed the all the partridges up until that point.
Right.
In fact, he was asked about doing this time and he wasn't available. And my name got put in the ring. And so there was a lovely continuity there because I had assisted Dennis. I was now doing it. And also the contractor that built all of Dennis's sets built my this time set. So there was a continuity there with the same, carpentry
Yeah.
company that created the set. So, yeah, that was just tremendous fun, tremendous fun. And then obviously off the back of that, I worked with the Gibbons brothers again on the Witchfinder. So
Hmm.
that was Baby Cow. So yeah, it's just I think it's interesting. You kind of go with the flow really, and if people like what you do and prepared to work with you, you're not necessarily going to say no. Oh, I'm not doing that because I only want to do this. You kind of, to a greater or less degree, you just kind of run with it and
Yeah.
see where it takes you. And I'm now doing dramas, and I seem to be the guy to do crime dramas. So I've done like
Right.
3 or 4 crime dramas. So it's just where my career is at this point, and long may it evolve and continue.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now we need to talk about something because obviously this is a Grange Hill podcast,
Yeah.
and you've mentioned a couple of school-based comedies. But there's one school-based comedy that you haven't mentioned yet, and it's probably I mentioned Roger Rabbit being in my top 10 films. This one's in my top 10 sitcoms by a mile. So you were the production designer on all 3 series of The Inbetweeners.
I
Is
was.
is
I
that right?
was.
Yeah.
I was. And that couldn't be a million miles more from Grange Hill, really. Yeah, it was. And that weirdly came about from the 11 o'clock show. So on the 11 o'clock show, Ian and Damon were producers
Uh-huh.
who wrote The Inbetweeners. And I knew Ian from doing fantasy football in the mid 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, so one thing led to another. And then when they were writing and we did the pilot was called Baggy Trousers. So, and actually, the original concept, I don't know, I think this is fairly common knowledge, but the original
Mhm.
concept was to do a 1980s,
Yeah.
like a period piece in between us. And it was originally called Baggy Trousers. The pilot was shot as Baggy Trousers. And then I think somebody at Channel 4 said, no, it's got to be contemporary. And actually, it was the right move. A period thing would have been expensive. They're very expensive to do period things, although it would have been fun. So, yeah, we did the pilot. which was the episode with the sit and the I Love Carly on the driveway. So that was
Yeah.
the pilot we shot, and then we reshot it. A couple of the cast members swapped. I don't know what's out there and what isn't, but
I've
basically,
seen I've seen something. James Buckley
that's it. He played.
played Neil
That's it. Yeah,
in the
he played that.
pilot. Yeah.
And
And
actually,
there was
weirdly,
only three of them, wasn't it?
no, there was
Oh,
four.
was there? Right.
There was
Okay.
four.
Right.
And oddly, James Buckley went to my school, but a million years after me. Yeah, so we did the pilot, and then that got commissioned, and we did the first series, and then suddenly, obviously, it took off. So series two, pressure was on,
Yeah.
um, and then series two. The only downside of series two was that we'd really. Am I allowed to swear? Can I say piss
Yeah.
up?
Go
We
for your
pissed.
life.
Yeah, we put. Well, I could have sworn a lot more up to this point, but we really pissed off the school where we shot it in series one, so they didn't want us back for series two. So if you look at the common room
Yeah.
in series two, that's a set. Series one
Right.
and three, it's a real building. Series two, it's a set. So we recreated it, almost
Wow. Yeah.
inch per inch. And then obviously, I think the school realised their mistake in series three. They welcomed us back, and
Nice.
the big climax at the end of series three with the car rolling into the lake and all that stuff. So, as a production designer, that's a big problem for me to solve. And there's that car that rolls into the lake is actually a second car that we bought, and we gutted it because you can't roll cars into lakes because the engine
Yeah.
ruins the water. So, what you see rolling into the lake is actually a copy minus an engine. But here's a good little bit of trivia. I'm the previous owner of the original yellow car because
No, you're not.
I bought it. I bought it and I bought it in my name. And then basically, I can't remember why that happened, but it doesn't because normally you go through an action vehicle company.
Yeah.
But I bought it, paid 500 quid for it from a dealer in Croydon, back literally round an alleyway. It was the most dodgy thing. I bought it, and then the action vehicle company picked it up and did the rest of it. But yeah, I'm in the logbook as the previous owner.
And it was yellow when you bought it.
Here's a good little bit. No, yes, it was. It was advertised as a yellow car, and I got to the dealer, and it was kind of it was like a little bit back alley, dodgy, whatever. And it got back to the action vehicle company. About a week later, I went up and saw it, and as I approached the action vehicle company, I thought it's not yellow. And it was like this very faded lime green. It was
Right.
nearly yellow, but it wasn't yellow. And I knew the writers would have gone ballistic, and I just had a panic. So we sprayed it. So we ended up spraying it. So yeah, it was advertised as yellow. It wasn't
Right.
quite yellow.
Is the remit then in the script? Was it a yellow
Yeah,
Fiat Cinquecento Hawaii?
yeah, Hawaii.
Wow.
And hilariously, I contacted Fiat in Italy because I said, and I got through to them, and I said, "Did you ever issue a thing?" And their replies back were just so baffled why this lad in England wanted to know. And then so the Hawaii bit, apparently a lot of dealers did this. If they wanted to shift units, they would call them special editions, and they basically change the seat covers and put a little graphic on the back
Brilliant.
and just give it an exotic name. So there is no such thing as a Cinquecento Hawaii. We it's in the script and we created it. And the Go Faster Stripes were a late addition. That's just coloured
Yeah.
tape to be in my box. The little logo on the back I got designed by my cousin who's a book designer. She designed the little logo. And then the Go Faster Stripes were literally a last minute thing, and they're just kind of coloured gaffer tape, basically, just
And
put down the sides.
did you have to make the bumper sticker as well?
Yeah, honk if you want to blow. That was done by another graphic designer friend of mine, Sally. Yeah, and that little shopping centre set up,
Yeah.
we shot that in Uxbridge in a little shopping centre. It was written, and the boys wanted to shoot it at Lakeside because Damon, one of the writers, is from Dartford,
Right.
and just the other side of the Thames where the bridge is, and where the Dartford crossing is. Oddly, I grew up literally the other side of the river, so Lakeside, and they wouldn't let us film there because it was, they didn't want us with stickers saying "honk if you want a blowjob." So
Yeah.
Lakeside said no, but Uxbridge were quite happy. And we shot it in this little shopping scene. We shot it in Uxbridge, and then isn't there a scene in a clothes shop and we shot it in there as well.
Yeah,
So
there's a clothes shop there and there's a cinema as well.
yeah, yeah. So we shot all that around there. Um,
Brilliant.
but yeah, it was hard work. I'm not going to lie. It was very hard work. It's quite a small art department. I'm very proud of it now, but at the time it was quite hard.
Yeah.
It was a tough job.
But like, so we were you there all the time?
Yeah,
Right.
most of
So,
the time,
but
most of the time.
so when you're filming something like that, the in betweeners or Man Down or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and things are so funny. If you're on set, how hard is it to like not laugh?
Well, I think you would rehearse it, so you've heard the jokes.
Right.
I mean, I have literally turned my back on things because
Right.
uh, and also if you're working with somebody like Ricky, who's known for, of
He,
course,
he loves it, doesn't he?
he actively encourages it. So you do find yourself turning away. He's recently done a load of Dutch Barn vodka adverts. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen any of those. Oh,
Yeah.
I've done those with Ricky,
Right.
and you can hear all the crew in the background laughing. He just decides to keep it in, and I definitely can recognise one of my laughs because he's just spontaneous. You know, he's very spontaneous. He's got a very rough idea of what he wants to say.
So that pub scene in Afterlife, which is like renowned for
Oh yeah, with the
bloopers.
swearing, the effing and
Yeah,
jeffing. Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
all the all the different nicknames of
Yeah.
Tom Bennett. Were you there for that?
I was there for some of it. I was there for
Right.
a couple of the rehearsals, and then the first take, and then I was off doing something else. Of course,
Right.
they go off on one. They just
Yeah.
every. I think there's an outtake reel, isn't there? And
Yeah.
I think this every time there's a different word in there.
Well, Thingy's in it, isn't he? What's his name? Paul K.
Paul
And
K.
like you've
Well,
got
Paul
you've got in
K.
there.
Yeah, Paul K. is the psychiatrist. The stuff that comes out is that boy's mind. God knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul K. For anyone that's listening, you probably do know, but Paul K. was Dennis Pennis
He was,
as
but I
well.
worked with him on Strutter. Do you remember a series called Strutter
Yeah,
on
yeah.
MTV, which was an MTV series, and he was foul mouthed in that as well.
Yeah. But I like another though comedy genius
Yeah,
as
and he's
well.
lovely, and he remembered me, and and he's actually, he's very charming in real life. Yeah,
And while we're talking about that scene in Afterlife for me it's so good because of the way when you watch it, like your emotions change so much, and like obviously it's Ricky Gervais, and I love Ricky Gervais, but I love Diane Morgan
yeah,
in that. Diane Morgan is the only character I've ever seen, like the character she plays in Afterlife, the only character I've ever seen where you watch it and you absolutely despise her.
yeah,
2 minutes later, you're just feeling really sorry for her, and obviously, like it's down to her acting, but obviously Ricky's writing
yeah. She's
at the
such a
same
good
time.
foil for. She's such a good foil for that cat for Tony's character,
Yeah,
and I love. I do. I'm very very proud of it, and I do love that last scene where all the loose ends on the
yeah.
last series at the fair, where all the loose ends are kind of tied up and everything is beautiful.
But
It's really beautiful. Ricky's really good. Ricky's really good in it. I mean,
that
Ricky is
yeah,
very, very good in Afterlife.
and that end scene, it's what, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
How long does something like that take to film?
We did all the stuff at the fair
Yeah.
was shot over 3 days.
Wow.
Which
Right.
wasn't a lot. We had 2 days to put the fair in. So that is in Hemel Hempstead. We shot that. And I think we had the Monday and Tuesday to get the fair ready from an empty field to a full fair.
Uh-huh.
We shot it on the Wednesday, Thursday, and the Friday. Yeah, then the Friday, and then we de-rigged it on the Saturday. So it all came down on the Saturday morning. So, and then we lost some time because it absolutely threw it down at one point.
Right.
So we lost some hours doing that, and there's stuff that's not in it. Some stuff got cut out. But yeah, I just love the way it all wraps up at the end.
Yeah.
It's really, really lovely.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. So, can you tell us then, Richard? What are you? Is there anything that you mentioned a couple of times? But what are you working on at the moment?
Well, I'm just recently that's just gone out. I'll just say that I did the thing called Code of Silence, the
Mm-hmm.
ITV drama with Ruth Alien Ellis. I just did that this time last year, so that went out earlier this year. Also, the recent series of Mandy, I've just production designed, and there's no, I can't say it. I was going to say something. I don't think it's probably not it, but there is something else coming
Right.
down the track with that. And then I'm now working on a series called The Chelsea Detective. So that's the third series I've done. That's for a production company called Expectation. And it goes out on Acorn TV, which is probably something nobody's really heard of, but it ends up on BritBox and it ends up on Now,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's
Brilliant.
I think it's on Prime, it might be on Prime now, but it's a crime drama set in Chelsea,
Uh-huh.
as the title suggests. And it's really good fun. I'm off to I'm off on a recce. We recce'd ended last week. We're doing some stuff at an airfield for the next block. We start filming that in 2 weeks' time. We're literally the last week filming. This week coming is the last week's
Mhm.
filming. Then we have a hiatus, and then we start the next block. So we kind
Brilliant.
of do 2 episodes, a week's break, and then 2 episodes. We're also shooting and recceing. So I'm recceing tomorrow, uh, all over the place, and then we've got a planning meeting, and then yeah, we start the week after next on the next 2 blocks. So there's 4 episodes,
Brilliant.
90
And
episodes, and it takes about 6, 7 months to film to do
wow.
to finish, from prep all the way through to shooting
Wow.
and finishing. So I'm doing that. I don't know what's happening after that.
Right.
But I'm doing a couple more chats about Ghostwatch. Um, what else am I trying to do? Um, I'm doing a couple of lectures coming up as well
Ah,
about
brilliant.
just my career in general. So yeah, just trying to. I still love it, Neil.
Yeah.
That's the simple truth. I love my job.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Even
Oh,
after
I can
37
tell.
years. Yeah,
I
even
can
after.
tell that you do. But is there anything that this might be a really difficult question for you to answer? Might be a really stupid question for me to ask. Is there? What would you say? What would you consider to be like your proudest work? Then is there anything?
Oh, good question. Good question. Well, there's probably several. Okay, let's try and with my entertainment hat on,
Mhm.
I'd probably say I worked on quite a few of the comic relief shows for the BBC. So I did 5 comic reliefs and 4 sport relief shows, and
Wow.
as a collective thing, they were very enjoyable experiences. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on the Jonathan Ross show, as I think I've alluded to as well. But the comic relief, which were very special, but the comic relief shows were just another league for
Hmm.
me. And the last one I did, comic relief, we shot at the Palladium. So I got to put a set on the stage at the London Palladium, um, which was a real, I had done it before with Frank Skinner on a stand-up show, but that was like almost like a backdrop. It was very simple
Yeah.
by comparison. But the comic relief set at the Palladium was very, very special to me because
Brilliant.
I fell in love with what I do from the theatre. So it
Yeah.
was kind of a full circle moment. Um, what else? I really enjoyed a thing I did for Sky called Intelligence. It was a comedy with David
Oh
Schwimmer,
yeah.
Nick
Yeah.
Mohammed. Really enjoyed that because that was a complete set build. So that was a whole world created in a studio, and as a design thing, as a design project, it was a solid thing, and all my ideas got through. Director and I got on very well. It was just a dream.
Yeah.
Witchfinder was good fun. Really enjoying doing Chelsea Detective. I did McDonald and Dodds a couple of years ago that I really enjoyed. Working with Steve on Partridge was just an absolute
Yeah.
highlight. Yeah, loads, and then obviously series one, I'm Man Down. I worked with the great Rick Mail. So um,
And
go on. And
Gwyneth
oh,
Paltrow.
what's her face? Yes, head teacher. Yeah, Mrs. McCluskey, of course
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, yeah, she was on it. And actually, funny enough, who else ended up in? I'm jumping about now. On Afterlife, we had Victor Meldrew's Mrs. Margaret, and of course, I worked
Yeah.
with. I can't remember her name. Her name's gone from my
Annette Crosby.
Annette Crosby,
Yeah.
and so Annette. Yeah, so that was lovely. So I got to say hello to her, and we had a bit of a chat again, reminding myself I must do this more. So I had a lovely little chat with Annette. But yeah, I did. Man Down with Rick Mel it was so special, and
It,
I had a proper chat with him
yeah.
one morning about the young ones because
Yeah.
that was my dawning, that was when I was at school, and that was the thing we spoke about, the next morning
Yeah.
when we were at school.
I've said it on here so many times. Rick Mail is like my absolute hero
He was lovely.
all time. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he was a complicated chap. He was a complicated chap, but he
Yeah.
was absolutely delightful. He was delightful to me. He was delightful to the crew. Just
Yeah.
funny bones. I worked with Vic and Bob a number of years ago. Bob particularly, I always say, he's just got funny bones.
Yeah.
Something about that man just makes you laugh.
But because you've worked on so many comedies, now you don't have to mention any. But have you ever been there when they've
Some
been?
people are shit as well, by the way.
Yeah, have you ever been there?
I'm not gonna name and shame.
Have you ever been there filming a comedy and just thought this is rubbish? Like,
Yeah, I have.
because
I have, and
comedy
I
is,
wouldn't say who, but yeah, I have. I have done. I've been actually, in all honesty, Neil, for the most part, I've been very lucky
yeah,
that a lot of what I've done, I would watch. I
yeah,
like and I would watch. But I have I have done a couple of things that I just think this is never going to fly.
Yeah.
And I don't find this funny. There are other things you get out of it because you might be shooting in an interesting location, or the production team are lovely and it's nothing about them. But yeah, it's just I have done a couple of things where you just think this is just never
Yeah,
gonna.
because like, and I suppose as well now, comedy's so different, and,
Yeah,
and people are far more careful when they write
yeah,
comedy now than they needed to be 30, 40 years ago as
yeah.
well. Like,
Of course, yeah,
brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so if someone was looking to get into the field that you're in
yeah,
now, what advice would you give them? Because like someone like me, as I say, I used to love watching, those documentaries about making of
yeah,
stuff. And if I had me time again, I'd probably go back, and I would probably look a bit more seriously
yeah,
into it. But I think the art side put me off because I was useless at it.
yeah.
What advice would you, or have you got any advice for anyone who's looking to get into the field of,
It,
the
it,
art direction?
it's different now because I think when I started, there weren't the amount of media courses that are on offer now. There are plenty of places you can train to be a production designer, and there's some very good courses. Wimbledon run an exceptionally good course. Cardiff has got an amazing production design course. But also it's sort of slightly being taken over by computer game design as well. So it's
Right.
becoming
Yeah.
some of the skills are being lost to digital, just pure digital. I'm very old school. I still draw with a pen and pencil. I give my drawings to young people, as I describe them, to turn them into digital drawings and all the rest of it. But yeah, I would say do a bit of research into just in terms of production design courses and what's out there. Um, like me, join a youth theatre, try and get some hands-on experience. If you like the look of particular shows, go on IMDb, find out who designed those shows, try and track these people down and write to them.
Yeah.
We all like a compliment, and if
Yeah.
somebody drops you a letter or drops you an email and said, "Oh, I saw your work, really like that, can I have a chat?" I'm more than I do lecture at colleges, and I'm very keen to get people interested in my side of things because lots of people don't know what the art department encompasses, and I'm very proud to be part of that department. It's the biggest department on a set because it's got so many aspects to it. So I'm a big champion of the art department. So yeah, try and just try make contact with people as best you can. Join a youth theatre. I live down in Worthing. There's a thing called in Brighton. There's a Facebook group called Brighton Filmmakers. They're always looking for people.
Yeah.
There's loads of people out there making little short films. They're always looking for people who might want to muck in and help out. So if you think you've got it in you, give it, try and make contact with people and put yourself out there.
Brilliant.
But yeah, there's several courses. I'm guessing there are sixth form courses. I'm Worthing have a film making course at sixth form level.
Mhm.
My Barking and Dagenham course was essentially a sixth form course. So there are places out there. But yeah, maybe join go and find the nearest local theatre and see if you
Yeah.
can get involved with behind the scenes.
Brilliant. Yeah.
um, I mean, maybe that's a slightly old-fashioned way because that's my route. That was my route in. But I know the courses are still out there. There's just more of them.
Yeah.
But the internet is both a blessing and a curse. What you don't want to do if you start writing, looking for work experience, is just send the same email to every person you write to. Try and personalize it. That's something I always say to all the students I ever talk to. If you're writing to somebody cold, personalize it because a lot of designers know there's certain times a year when it's graduation that you're suddenly aware of loads of emails coming in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you would imagine all they've done is change the name at the top and send the same email
Right. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's very easy to do. You can send
Yeah.
50, 100 emails in a day. You
Yeah.
can easily do that. Try and personalize it because that always helps. That
Yeah.
always helps because it grabs your attention. And sometimes I always say with people, if they're desperate and they don't hear back, don't take it personally.
Hmm.
Do not take it personally because the good designers, and I'm not saying I'm one of those, but the good designers are always busy. And sometimes it can just be down to timing that an
Yeah.
email lands on an inbox at the precise moment you need some work experience.
Yeah.
and it is just down to timing. If you're trying to get work experience, you have to be over 18, because anything under that, we can't help with that because you
Right.
need chaperone. Ironically, you need chaperone. So you can't do anything until you're 18,
Yeah.
on a set of any description.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Richard. Now, Richard, we are coming towards the end of the
Great, 'cause I'm
interview.
starving.
And I have got the last few. I always ask these last few questions
Go
at the
on.
end, and they're all about Grange Hill.
Okay.
Okay, so over in the last couple of years, there's been talk in the news of a Grange Hill movie in the works.
Has there? Okay. Right.
Phil Redmond's written it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sarah Sugarman's involved. Kellen Jones is involved as
Yeah.
well.
Well,
What do
I'll
you?
design it. I'll
Yeah, I
design
was going to say, what do you
it.
think of the idea of a Grange
Well,
Hill
I didn't
movie?
know that. That
Right.
sounds like fun. I mean, it would be I think you've got to decide who's going to go and see it.
Yeah.
And you definitely know that if you saw a Grange Hill film being advertised, these kids of a generation, i.e. my generation, would prick their ears up.
Yeah.
So therefore, you do need some of those older kids in it,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, probably, because if it's all just young kids, are you going to be interested? I don't know. That would be my personal thing on it.
Yeah.
If it's you'd almost want one of the kids when I watched it to be one of the teachers. That would be the thing, wouldn't it? That's how
Yeah.
it would pan out. But I like the idea of it. I like the idea of it.
Brilliant. And you've already said you'll design it, so that's okay. I don't need to ask you that one.
Yeah, if Phil's listening, I'll
Yeah.
jump in on that.
You said earlier on as well that you watched Grange Hill when you were a kid.
Yeah.
So who was your favourite character on the programme, or is there a character that you would have liked to have played on the
Oh
programme?
wow! Well, God, no idea. I did genuinely like Tucker. I thought
Right.
Tucker and Benny as a double. Those
Yeah.
Tucker and Benny and Alan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that original gang, I loved. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved as a kid. I'm saying I'm a kid. I'm 12. And I was literally about to start secondary school. So
Yeah.
yeah, who would I have liked to play? God, that's such a good question because I only really can remember it from my time watching it. Was it Gripper Stebson? Was he?
Griffer. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 I don't think I'm not thuggish enough. I quite like the original evil caretaker character. Not the caretaker. Was it Mr. Bron? Who was the guy with the?
So who you look like, Mr.
Thanks.
Baxter. Yeah.
Mr. Baxter.
Mr. Baxter.
I definitely would like to play Mr. Baxter.
Yeah, you've got the look down there.
Makeup.
So
I saw him on the tube about 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was definitely you got a tingle. Fucking hell, I need to back away from that, man. Yeah, I'd like to play Mr. Baxter. There you go.
Brilliant. Okay, so the final question then, Richard, is why do you think there is still such affection for Grange Hill?
It's definitely nostalgia is a powerful thing. And you were very, very kind to contact me because we had spoken on Twitter quite a while ago.
Yeah, well,
and it and just your email, I was like, oh God, yeah, I'd love to, because it's one of those shows. Although I did a whole year on it, I don't often mention. It doesn't really crop up in a conversation, but it's such a Grange Hill means different things to different generations of kids. We're talking about the 90s Grange Hill. I've got one of my Grange Hill stickers there.
Yeah.
But that's not the logo that I remember. The logo I remember was a bit more squirrely, a bit more traditional, you know. So it means different things to different people. And for me, it reminds me of starting school. It was literally, I think it started I want to say April. Would that be?
It started in the February. It started.
Oh,
Yeah.
February. Okay. So I was literally finishing up at junior school.
Right.
And I'm watching Grange Hill thinking, oh, blimey, as I said right at the start, is that what I'm to expect? So it has a real clear, it's very sharp in my mind, Grange Hill. And actually, when I did get asked to do it, my immediate thought was, oh, Tucker and Benny and all those. That was my immediate thought. I hadn't realised that Grange Hill had moved on. I was aware of the Just Say No campaign, possibly. I would have been aware of that because it was a single, wasn't it? And that character who had the drug problem, Samo. So I was kind of aware of that. But by that point, I was studying and probably not watching that much kids TV, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to us all.
But I think why does it have affection? I think it's just that nostalgia is such a powerful thing. And I think in the same way that kids of a certain era are defined by their Blue Peter presenters,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Grange Hill is probably very similar. You're defined by the people you watching Grange
Yeah,
Hill.
yeah, brilliant. Well, Richard, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your experiences, not just Grange Hill, but the industry as a whole. I mean, it's been really, really interesting talking to you. It really, really has. I'm going to be honest. As I said, I've not interviewed anyone off the crew before, and I just didn't know how this was going to go, but I've loved it. I don't know if you noticed, I haven't stopped smiling the
Oh,
entire
okay.
time we've been talking. It's been great. Now, just before we go, I just need to say something which isn't related to Richard, but is related to Grange Hill. I need to say a huge congratulations to Ruth Caraway, Fiona Lee Fraser, Alison Bettles, and Lisa York. Those regular listeners will know they were on the podcast a couple of weeks ago talking about the play that they were going to be performing. Lavies, it's just finished its run this week. And I was fortunate enough to go and see it yesterday, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was so well written, so well performed. I know the girls have all said they're not going to do any more acting after this, but honestly, they were brilliant in it. So I just needed to get that out there as well. So well done, ladies. It was brilliant. It was brilliant seeing you all. So well done, ladies. It was great talking to you. Richard, thank you once again. It's been great. And to anyone that's listening, I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil.
Bye bye.
Bye.